just one part of a larger family.
You're right. Back in the day, there were no seed banks around where we were at. All we got was bag seed from Colombian and Mexican that we used to get. And if you got some decent seeds, we'd plant them. There was no skill involved. It was just throw them in the dirt and water them and hope for the best. Guerrilla grows were the way to go because, of course, everything was illegal. And we go off in the woods and find a spot that was good away from everybody and plant the seeds and then make trips back in there maybe once a week trying to get some water to them in the dry times, and hopefully the animals didn't eat them or hunters didn't find them or hikers. It was nothing like it is today where you got freedom to grow. I started messing around indoors, 5-gallon buckets, flower pots, and using lights like outdoor security lights, high pressure sodium security lights we'd adapt to use for indoors, some metal halides that were basically street lights that we would commandeer and adapt to use for indoor growing.
So won't you join us in this conversation as we dive into organic gardening with the Canna Prophet? Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Organically Blunt. And I have the opportunity to speak with a legend here that's been growing probably for longer than some of you have been alive. Welcome to the show, the Canna Prophet.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Truly an honor.
Definitely. So, a lot has changed in probably, I would say, the least the past 50 years, obviously, when it comes to growing. And we want to dive into kind of how you got your start here. So, like, as far as growing goes, where did you get your first seeds, and when did you decide you wanted to try growing them?
Back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean back in the 70s, all of our weed was, bought from the dealer, and it was Colombian, it was Mexican. If you're lucky enough, you got Thai sticks every once in a while, so really good hash. But mostly, good Colombian. If you had some real good Colombian that came through, we always keep some seeds out of that and try growing them. When you're young, money's hard to come by. If there's a way to get your weed, your smoke for free, you're gonna go for it. And that's what we tried doing. There's nothing extravagant, no skill involved. It was go out in the woods, find a clear place away from everybody, and plant the seeds, water them, and pray, and come back every week or two with some water in a soda bottle to give them some water, and hope they were still there, that the animals or thieves didn't get a hold of them.
Wow. I couldn't imagine, I've always had the opportunity to grow in a legal environment for the most part. I mean, obviously back before we became a medical state, I grew it, and it was kind of guerrilla grow, but nothing, I guarantee, like you had to do. And, I'm sure potency has changed a lot over the years too, hasn't it?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. The cannabis we have today in no way, shape, or form compares to what we were smoking 30, 40 years ago. Whole different ball game. We did have some good stuff that come through. If you got a hold of some good Thai sticks or some really good hash or some good Colombian red, that was like the cream of the crop back then. And then as we went, out of the 70s into the 80s and 90s, I started hooking up with some growers out of California and Hawaii and getting a hold of some of their bud, which was like mind-blowing at that point, to have some good domestic homegrown that was killer, just straight fire, was just mind-blowing. And that really got me into thinking about, hey, I got to turn this up a notch, and when I grow my own, and if these guys are doing this, I can do better than growing dish weed, basically.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I grew up, my grandfather was like a hemp farmer basically, and my parents grew it too. And I remember them growing big terracotta plant potters in our living room with clip lights on it. And I'm talking like 50-gallon pots. And I remember being a kid and everybody sitting around the kitchen table. I grew up on a farm, and everybody's in the kitchen having a good time, and you smell this funny smell, and you just didn't know what it was as a kid. But now that I'm older, I definitely knew what it was now. So yeah, it's I call my parents out because they don't smoke it anymore, and it's like I asked them, and they still haven't answered the question to why they stopped. But I'm guessing it was because of us kids. But it is what it is. But you know, when you got into growing indoor, not just too recently, and you had to move a lot of this in from outdoor to inside, I had to do the same thing. I always grew up growing it outdoors and organically and as simple as possible. I'm
Yep.
talking very few ingredients to the soil at all. And my question is, I know for me it was hard to transition and trying to figure things out. What were some of your biggest challenges coming from the outdoor to the indoor?
Figuring out lighting. You know, I was on a low budget when I first started growing indoors, and I mean, it literally started out 5 gallon drywall buckets, and take the plant in at night and put it out on the back porch during the daytime to get some sunlight on it. You know, at least 5 6 hours a day of direct sun, and then back in the house at night, until I could figure out some lighting solutions, which first ended up being one of these high pressure sodium security lights that I picked up at a yard sale with a 150-watt bulb in it, and I grew a beautiful plant off of that single 150 watter. But then I realized, hey, more light, better plants. So then I got into the purple lights, and then as the purple lights became less popular and the really nice LEDs came out, I was fortunate enough to be kind of sponsored by HLG. They really hooked me up, and I've been running their lights ever since, and love them.
Definitely. I can relate to HLG because they gave me my first chance in this industry too, as being working with a big light company such as HLG. And I
They're
think
the best.
oh, they are. I haven't found a light that compares as far as what I like right now in my arsenal. I have a few different brands, and it's like, my HLG is my favorite because I can control my light on the road, and it gives me that capability. And my other lights don't have that, so
Yeah,
they are
same
leading.
here.
Yep.
Same
So
here.
you grow indoors now. What have been some of your favorite strains you have grown indoors?
My all-time favorite's the Photo Period by Dutch Passion Meringue. It's a wedding cake animal cookies cross that is just mind blowing. I got some super yields off it indoors. The terpene, the terpenes. I love terpenes, and that plant has got the terpene profile that just makes my head spin. So that's like my all-time favorite. Dutch Passions, all the flowers and photo periods. I love them guys over there. And the terpene content, they always got the stinking plants. I mean, they knock you over with the smell. Fast Buds is another company that's got some really killer genetics now, especially that they moved into fast flowers and photo periods. I got an 8 foot photo period of theirs growing outdoors right now, and a couple of their fast flowers that are just ginormous. Um, and the potency on theirs, they're award winning. You look them up, their THC levels tested run as high as 27, 28%. Um, and just, I can't say enough good things about my people at Fast Buds. They've always hooked me up and always given me great support.
Oh, definitely. I work with both those brands myself as well, and I can tell you that I've never grown an autoflower outdoors until this season, and then I put 6 of them out. And I've got some of the newer strains from Fast Bud, such as the guava and a few others. And I can tell you, I've never seen this much frost on an autoflower. And
Yeah.
these are outdoor, and I'm like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, and their customer service is way up there. I mean,
Oh, excellent. The
yeah,
community manager is right there on time all the time, Heather.
yep.
Um, Sebastian is great. I'll probably be doing another Twitch episode with him once my big ones outside get really flowered up nicely. And I can't leave out Siegeman because Siegeman has always took care of me as well. They're one of the best seed banks out there, especially for people in the U.S. I mean, it is fast shipping. They got a great selection of breeders, and they stand behind everything as well. So, I got to give a shout out to my people at Siegeman. They have always supported me as well. So those are like my top three. And if I had to add one more into my seed breeders for everybody out there, is the latest one that I got picked up by as a tester is Turpey's Mutant Genetics. They got some fire stuff going on, let me tell you.
I got a few packs on my table, and I had them on the show, and I have yet to pop any, but I'm gonna take the hard challenge because my outdoor season is coming close to an end here in Michigan, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop some of them and try it indoor. Even though I talked to them over there, and they're like, we don't recommend that you grow them indoors because they're very hard and they grow fast and this and that. But they're like, hey, if you can do it, we love that to see you do it. So, and I
Yeah.
know you've done it. So, do you have any advice for somebody that might be new to growing their genetics indoors?
For Turpeys, of course, you're dealing with regular seeds. They're not feminized seeds. So, buy a lot so you can plant a lot because you're going to get some males out of the bunch, you know. But once you get the females, it's like Christmas. I'm running two of their strains right now, a Pine Tar Croco and a Lamb's Cheese Semi F1. And I have actually two in, one of each inside and one of each outside, just to see the differences between what they look like structure-wise and all growing indoors and outdoors. Huge difference. The outdoor plants are, the Pine Tar Croco is 11 feet tall. The Lamb's Cheese is about 9. Real tall, wide internode spacing, 3-fingered leaves on the Lamb's Cheese, really cool looking mutant. I'm sorry, on the Pine Tar Croco. Lamb's Cheese has got funky kind of duck's foot leaves on them. That's really neat.
Oh,
I
wow.
have right now in the room with me now one of the Pine Tar Crocos. It's a short, bushy plant, real tight node spacing, and I have a Lamb's Cheese behind me that is really tall, wide node spacing. It's got really pronounced duck footing on the leaves, really nice looking plant. And they're both actually tonight, after I get off the air with you, they're going dark for 3 days. They're getting ready to get chopped.
Oh, wow. Okay, excellent. Yeah, definitely. And that gets me right into another question for you. And I know it might be an odd one, but do you believe that it actually makes a difference? And the reason I ask is there's a lot of bro science, as they call it, in
I
some of
don't know.
this.
There was a study over in Europe at one of the universities that I read somewhere. I have it somewhere, but they did a study. After 48, 72 hours, they measured trichome development and all that, and it seems to have some basis to it. So I figure it this way: what's it going to hurt?
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it's not hurting anything. Just make sure that if you got your plants in the dark for 3 days, that before you put them in the dark for 3 days, you water them real good so they don't dry out completely, because they continue to aspirate and live and grow even though they're in the dark. And the theory is that in the dark is when they produce trichomes to protect themselves when the sun comes out. So theory has it that if you put them in an extended period of dark, that gives them more time to produce more trichomes. I've taken pictures of my plants before, chopping them, and then after 3 days in the dark. Maybe it's me, but I think there's a difference, you know. But like I said,
Sure.
look, it can't nothing. It can't hurt, you know. It cannot hurt.
Right.
It's
No,
not going to reduce the amount of trichomes that you have.
that is the truth, definitely. I ask a lot of questions like that because some people, they have different beliefs. There's no way that is wrong to grow this plant, and that follows up to my next question. Like I mentioned before we got started, I have a lot of newer growers that watch our show. So if you were to take things back and start completely over, how would you do it? And what would you use for soil? What would you use for nutrients? Or would you top dress? How would you do it for somebody?
Are we talking indoors or outdoors?
Let's go indoors because most people have that more of an opportunity to grow indoors than they do outdoors.
Okay, so first thing I do is do my research. Go on YouTube. There's a lot of great growers, a lot of great grow channels on YouTube. Mr. Canucks Grow, um, a homegrown cannabis company, to name just a couple. I mean, there's a bunch of guys out there, and I apologize if I forgot Dog Doctor. God, all these guys got great channels. They're full of great information. They're out there growing every day. They know what works and doesn't work. Yeah, a lot of them got sponsors that they're going to favor on equipment, but for techniques, learn from them before you make the mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes, but hopefully that learning from their mistakes will keep yours to a minimum. And then just keep it simple. Get yourself some fabric pots, get a bag of cocoa perlite, already pre-mixed. You don't have to mess with that. And then get dry, slow release, dry organic amendments. I use Gaia Green. I also use Mother Earth Grow for my cocoa perlite. I've had real good luck with their stuff, and I've tried many different brands of cocoa perlite. I always end up going back to Mother Earth Grow. I've never had an issue with it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Gaia Green, slow release amendments, down to earth amendments I've used as well. And then I in between the feedings with the amendments, initially I amend the soil with all that, and then I use worm castings I incorporate as well. Once all that's amended and your plant's growing in it, all you have to do after that, you water in with straight water. With cocoa and perlite, pH does matter a little bit. If you're growing the soil outside or in soil inside, pH doesn't matter at all. I don't care. The microbes in the soil will balance the pH out. You don't have to worry about that. That keeps it even simpler. But in cocoa, I always keep my pH 6.2 to 6.8 in that range. I vary it just because of the cocoa. And about every 3 to 4 weeks, I top dress the plants with more dry amendments to keep the micro colony fed and fat and happy. I hand work them in by hand and then water them in after that. And then about once every 2 weeks, I'll mix up a batch of compost tea, which, you're using a little bit of the fertilizer, the dry amendments, because it's already not pre-inoculated with microbes, some worm castings, and I incorporate a little bit of alfalfa meal in there and some rice hulls, and, making your compost tea out of that. Feed the plants with that every 2 weeks, and it's it. It's simple, Set your light timer, water them. Let the plants tell you if you're taking care of the roots on them. And I use Extreme Gardening's Mycos when I put my plants in. That's going to really boost the root zone on them. Big roots, big fruits. So I don't worry about the top of the plant that you can see. I worry about what's in the soil that I can't see, keeping that healthy. And as long as the soil is healthy, the microbes are fat and happy, the plant's going to do great. As long as you got good genetics, you're going to see it fully express itself by making sure your soil is healthy. That's the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Extreme Gardening, they're good friends of mine. I see them at a lot of different events, and I've been using their product for a few years now, and I have nothing but good to say about them. I just put up a photo the other day of some roots of one of my plants, and somebody was like, "Holy cow, what did you do to do that?" And I'm like, Extreme Gardening, Mycos, Azos. I use Azos WP. I use Red Azos. I use their whole line, and they don't sponsor me, but I do advertise them, and sometimes they send me a goodie box. I'll be honest with you guys,
You're
but
lucky. I'm not sponsored either. I don't get a goodie box.
hey, I can't get a hoodie though. I tried getting a hoodie, and they were like, "Sorry, you got to catch the guys that always catch them at the shows," and they're like, "We don't have any," and I'm like, "Oh, but I want a hoodie." But hey, it is what it is. So,
You need a hoodie in Michigan.
oh, you do definitely, because one minute it's 90 and the next it's 40. I mean, it's ridiculous, and people can't believe that we've had 50-degree swings, but we have them here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so, how's your garden going outdoors this year? I mean, are you running into any issues at all this year?
I always try to pick strains that are fungal resistant, mold resistant, that are fast flowering, because our growing season where I'm at here, they've got to be in flower before September. They got to start flowering, this month, like now, in order for them to be fully mature before our wet season comes and the weather gets too cold. Then you start having problems with fungus, mold, and all that. Other than that, I don't have problems with boisterous where I grow outside. My soil, and I grow directly in the soil. I don't grow in pots outside. They go right in the ground.
Same here.
I do prep my ground. I'll dig out the areas where my plants are going to go, and then I mix in some cocoa perlite that's from past runs that I've done, because I try to recycle all of my organic soil, kind of like no-till almost. No sense in throwing good soil away. And, I'll put some of that in with my soil outside just to give it good drainage and some aeration in there so it doesn't compact as much. But I'm lucky enough to have good soil to start with. Where I'm at used to all be farmland, so we got pretty good sandy, loamy soil here. Anyway, once I prep the soil and put the plants in, the only thing I really do to them, I cage them, I trellis them. I usually put either one or two trellises on like a 4 foot by 4 foot cage around them. And then once they get going, I cover the base of them. This year I mounded the soil. I have them in mounds kind of, and I just covered it with straw to help hold, because we've had such hot weather. I mean, I'm talking 108, 110 heat indexes. And with the straw packed on top of the soil, it's holding the moisture in on them. They haven't really had any heat stress whatsoever this year, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Only other issue I ever had outside is leaf hoppers. And really,
them are bad. Yeah.
if you got resistant strains, I mean, they chewed the shit out of my leaves on my plants when they were young. I mean, literally chewed them up. And the plants were resistant and had enough vigor. And that's all goes back to the microbes and organic and all, that they bounce back from it and thrived. They still are getting chewed on, but it's like they don't even care. And as bushy as my plants outside are, they got plenty of leaves to spare. So let the leaf hoppers have something to eat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been dealing with them a lot this year, and Japanese beetles have been bad this year.
I already had a couple of them.
Yep. And my grow is right next to a blackberry bush patch. So like I told the farmer that I grow on his land I said, we might have to mow them down next year. I said, because I feel like the bugs are on them plants and they're jumping onto my plants. I mean, it's not that close, but I feel like that's where they're coming from. And it's like, it's been a pain in the ass keeping up with the IPM and trying to keep things off them. And, and then I had a lot of things chewing the leaves this year, but they're looking great. I mean, other than that, I mean, they bounce back. So you're definitely right. The microbes is where it's at. And you do a lot of the same things we do up here, so it's kind of neat to hear how people grow in different areas, because you guys got different challenges. But I'm growing Atlas seeds, which I got through Seedsman, but I deal with Atlas as well. And they're bred for outdoor horticulture, mostly more like a Midwest growing, in my opinion. But They breed them for everywhere, but some of them are really tolerant. I've been growing the fast genetics this year because like you said, I want to be done in September because
Yeah.
last year I lost so much to bud rot and powdery mildew from so much rain and wind and not getting out there in time when after it downpours. Yeah, it's been a challenge. So this year we're gonna be done a little earlier, definitely.
There you go. Yeah, I do have um, two outside that aren't in the ground that I just reminded myself of. They're both seedsmen, OG Cushions, photo periods.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One of them is in a solo cup. That's my entry for the Global Grow Cup. And that just started to flower. And then the other one's in a 10-gallon fabric pot, and it's actually about 4.5 feet tall right now. It got topped once, and it was a lot bigger than, I think it grew a lot bigger outside than it would have if I had it inside under the lights. And the only reason I left it outside was because my plants inside had already been flipped to 12-12, and that plant was still vegging. I had to let the sunshine get her a little bigger before she went into flower. But
Definitely.
yeah, yeah, I can't wait to see these OG Cushions. That's a good strain.
Yeah, I got one of them going outside too, and I was like, and it just got into flower here, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is gonna be great, and it's starting to pack. And the leaves are already building frost, and I'm like,
Well, you're
okay,
lucky. Mine's just starting. I mean, it's just starting. So I'm going to be cutting it close, depending on how many weeks of flowering that's going to have on it.
sure, definitely, yeah. Mine's only in a 5 gallon though, so I feel like it kind of sped it up a little bit. I think, in my opinion, because we got a really bad drought and I didn't water it for 2 days, and this thing looked like Batman with his head hanging down in a whole cape. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, well, I think it needs water because I was gone. And I came back and gave it some water, and I just let it do its thing. And the next day it was perked back up, and it's been healthy ever since. But we hit 107 here in Michigan, and that's
Yeah,
unheard of, and it was insane. And I was just like,
that's
man,
crazy.
yeah, definitely, because we got a lot different humidity than you guys probably have. Yours is probably drier. Ours is real heavy and wet, and oh, I hate it.
Now we get humid too, because where I'm at, I'm 70 miles from the ocean and about
Wow,
five miles from the bay. So I got water on both sides of me and all kinds of creeks and stuff. So yeah, it gets humid here. Trust me.
definitely, definitely. So I want to run through some personalized questions. Essentially, that's what we call them. They're more towards who you are as a person and not necessarily how you grow or anything, but just kind of hear more about your story a little bit and who you are as a person. And I know I don't mean to date you, so don't take it that way. But this question we ask everybody is, when was the first time you tried cannabis and where'd you get it from?
I was, let me think back. 'Cause that's going back into the Wayback Machine. I was like 14 or 15, and my best friend had like five older brothers, and three of the five older brothers partied, and we got some weed from them, and me and him smoked our first bowl together. And back then, it was like you go to the hardware store, you buy these brass fittings and screw them all together and make yourself a little bowl, and then get some pipe screens to put in there. And if you couldn't find pipe screens, you get the screens they put in the faucets in your kitchen and cut the rubber trim off them and use them in the bowl for a screen.
Oh man, it kind of reminds me of my first time. I did that, but I mean,
Or you got the toilet paper roll with some tin foil. You punched a hole in the toilet paper roll and made a bowl that way.
wow. Okay, yeah, definitely. Wow, yeah. Now I feel old, and I'm not even that old. Like, man, I've tried a few of them myself. Yeah, definitely. So the first time you smoked, did you get the munchies?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember. It must have been good weed.
Do you get them now though? And if you do, what is
Oh,
your
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
okay?
Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That's my poison.
All right, yeah, I can relate. Mine's the Little Debbie's and Sour Patch Kids and Reese's peanut butter, the candy bars, and yeah, it's not good. So, I got to ask you a question that we ask everybody. And this question is typically the last one I ask, but we're going to dive into some other things here as well. But I want to make sure I ask you this question. And this question has one rule to it, though. And that is you can't think about your answer. Whatever pops in your head, you got to blurt it out. So here we go. If you could smoke with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Mike Tyson.
Okay. That's a first, definitely.
There you go. That's right off the top of my head. I think Mike's cool as shit. I love his blunt raps. I can't wait for his fight coming up. He's gonna kick Paul's ass. But yeah, big Iron Mike. That'd be it.
Oh, that would be something. I tell you, I don't. I've invited him to a few of our events. We throw on some pretty big events up here in Michigan, and my friends do at Michigan Gyms and Genetics, and we've tried to get him out here. We haven't had a chance to connect with him yet. So if anybody out there that's watching this knows Mike, hey, we'd both love to party with him. So
Come on, Mike.
right, definitely. So Ric Flair, yeah, a guy said Ric Flair. Yeah, I think Ric Flair would be cool in his younger age though, because he can't do the thing he's famous for, the who or however he does. I'm not even gonna try it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. His Ric Flair yell. Yeah, because I don't think he does it anymore, but if he did, that would be cool. Yeah, definitely.
Joe Rogan would be pretty cool to get high with too.
Oh yeah, I listen to a few. I don't listen to him as much as most people do, faithfully. But I've listened to a few shows that standed out to me. Like he did one with Cat Williams, and Cat Williams is my favorite comedian. Well,
Yeah,
Cat
that's
Williams,
cool.
a lot of people don't know that he was Christian and he was raised very. And I don't mean to be racist, so don't anybody take it this way. Very white minority style, and he's very proper in the way he speaks when he's on camera, not doing his skits. And that man
Absolutely.
is very mythological with his thinking, and it's very deep. And it was probably one of the best interviews I ever did, because I look up to Joe Rogan because of the way he interviews people. I wish I had his skills because he
Yeah.
knows how to tell a good story. He really does.
Yeah, Cat does good on Shannon Sharp's podcast as well.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Shannon's got a real good interview with him. A couple of them. Yeah.
Wow. So, do you have any events or cups you're going to be entering this year before the year's over?
Honestly, this year, by the way, Melonade runs Dutch Passion. This year, no. I'm on Grow Diaries. I don't know if you're familiar with that website, but I spent a lot of time on Grow Diaries. I probably have over 50 different grows on there.
Wow.
Under my Canna Prophet name. And they have a lot of contests that you can enter over there that I like joining, just to have the sense of competition amongst there's some really, really, really skilled growers over there. Some real good photographers. So I like competition. I'm a type A personality. If you're going to go big or stay home. So it just challenges me to do my diaries, and I can always go back, and it's helpful to me because I can look back 4 or 5 years ago and in detail see a run I did on some proto period White Widow from Dutch Passion, and exactly what I did, how they turned out, and decide, hey, I might want to pop some of those seeds again, and look back and say, yeah, this is what I got to do to get them dialed in. This is what they liked back then. So it's helpful. as reference material to do the diaries, to keep a journal. And I recommend that to anybody that really wants to get into growing really quality cannabis. You know, my son, he uh, he grows what he calls ditchweed. Um, you know, he doesn't put a whole lot of effort into it and is happy with what comes out. It's it's up to the grower to decide where they want to be, what their goals are. Do you want to just grow, you know, average seaweed? Do you want to grow, and I don't mean seaweed, I mean like C minus, C plus weed. Or do you want to grow B weed, or do you want to grow A plus plus weed? You know, that when your friends come over and then you open the bag up, they're going, "Oh my God, what you got there?" And yeah, it all depends. And to get to A plus plus, you got to have your game right. You know, you got to have everything on point. The environment's got to be on point. You got to have good lighting. You got to have good nutrients. You got to make sure your VPD and all is good. There's a lot of things that go into getting killer weed. But anybody can grow good weed. It's just the best weed takes a little bit more effort than just the average weed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And most people that I know that started out growing just casually, they saw the results that they got from the casual growing and said, you know what, man, if I do a little bit more, maybe I can get a little better. And that's what they did. And then the next thing you know, they were growing better weed than I was, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's great. And I love showing people. I got a few people that have never grown before that I took under my wing and showed them step by step what to do. And man, I'll tell you what, before long, they did far out impressed me, you know, of what they were doing. It was killer. And it's satisfying to see that. What's the old saying? You teach a man to, or you feed a man a fish and he's not hungry for a day, you teach a man to fish and doesn't go hungry for the rest of his life.
Exactly. And that's true. You know, and that's the legacy, and that's the whole, that was my whole plan with this podcast, you know, as a host, is to become an educator, you know, because my grandfather educated me on so much stuff out of simplicity that I'm going to start doing that here too. You know, I haven't done a lot of how-to videos. I have a few on the channel, but I'm getting into going to be doing more with Korean natural farming and more with the organics that
Mm-hmm.
stuff you got laying around the house. And I'm going to start teaching a few things like that, or things that are very accessible to everybody. Like, we're going to do a video coming up on how to make a lactic acid bacteria. And it's very simple, believe it or not, guys. All you need is rice, water, and milk, and a jar to get started. And we're going to teach you guys how to do that. And this stuff is so healthy that it's even healthy it's basically healthy for anything living. I mean, because we could drink it or eat it, and the plants love it, animals love it. It's going to be a great episode. But like you said, there's so much that you can put into it to make it that much better. Don't ever challenge yourself, guys, as to learning something new, because there's always something new to be learned in this industry.
Absolutely.
Yes, every
Absolutely.
day. Yep.
Another thing you can look into as well, I read an article, it was a study that was done, and I actually tried it myself. Two of my outdoor plants, the two 12 and 9.5 foot tall ones, the mutant plants, I exposed those when they germinated to ethylene. I hooked up a sealed system to generate ethylene gas and keep the germinating seedlings in there for 24 hours with it. The study found that doing so increases their growth rate and their yield by up to 50%.
Wow.
So, judging from the size of these plants, their growth rate definitely was proven because they're giants. Now I have to see what the yield looks like on them, and they're in flower now, so time will tell.
Definitely. I'll be keeping tabs, because and you'll have to share them with us, and we'll update everybody, because
Yeah, and I did it a kind of a huck-a-buck, basement mechanic type way, but it worked. You know, again, keep it simple. You know,
definitely.
It's hard to acquire ethylene gas. It's not like you can go down to the corner drugstore and say, I need a bottle of ethylene gas. So
Right.
you got to make it yourself. You
Yep,
know?
yep. And there's a lot of things like that, like I got a lot of friends that are into the organic side of things even deeper than I ever could imagine. I learn from these guys every day. And one of them's Potent Ponics and, Bakashi Earthworks, Brandon Rust at Bakashi Earthworks. These
Yep.
guys blow my mind every day, on ways to treat things organically. And I'm not used to it because where I live, a lot of the stuff you got to get off of Amazon because we don't have any grocery stores or nothing around. And so that's why I'm learning to re-amend soil, and I'm learning to do the organic way and reuse your soils, and trying to reteach that because there's people that live in rural areas like me where you can't even get the supplies half the time that you need. So you got to use what's available to you.
Yeah, plus, I mean, just that's the whole thing. Cannabis growing should be relaxing. It shouldn't be
Yeah,
stressful.
right.
Life's stressful enough. You know, we smoke cannabis to kind of relieve stress. So why should growing it be stressful? And I've tried the salts. I've tried. I'm not going to name any names, but I've tried a couple different manufacturers' salts, and man, it's like doing magic potions, mixing stuff and making sure the pH is this and don't do that first and got to do this second. It's a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah.
I'd much rather fill a jug up with water and water the plant and know that the microbes in the soil, I can look at the water and see little things swimming around in it that are alive. Living soil is the way to go because that's what makes the terpenes in the plant really explode. You know.
Definitely. And people thought I was crazy when I set up my indoor beds in my house. I got a 3x3 bed and I got a 4x2 bed. And they're not the biggest, but I know people that got bigger. And people are like, "Oh, that soil in your house." I'm like, "Listen, you build it right. All you got to do is water your plants, top your soil every now and then with some top dressing, and I don't even have to check my pH." And they're like, "Wow, really?" And I'm like, "Really?" Because I don't have time for that. And the
Yeah.
bigger the bigger the pot, the bigger the buffer, the bigger the essentially a safety net you kind of have there. And that's what I've learned over the years, definitely. And man, I look up to people like you because my grandfather, his recipe was so simple when he grew. We used real fish locally caught, and he'd let them decompose next to the plants. We would use powdered aloe, powdered coconut, sometimes, or he'd use banana peels and make potassium water. And we'd use a good worm casting, a good manure, and a good topsoil, and that was it. And that's all we grew with. The soil essentially fed itself. The fish, when it broke down in amino acids and stuff and that, it really supercharged the plants. And that's all I can say. He didn't grow for smoke. He grew for selling the hemp. He had a hemp license. My family's had a hemp license in the family for years, but I personally don't see profit. Even though they do, I don't see profit the way they did when I was a kid. So it was like, this is too slow. It's not moving fast enough. Like,
You profited in other ways. You got some seeds planted in you that are carrying through to today, I see.
yeah, exactly. And I get a lot of people to this day. I come from the legacy side of things before I became medical, and I used to, unfortunately, deal it to a lot of people. And these people come to me still to the day, and they're like, "Oh, come on, just a little bit." And I'm like, "No, this is just for me now." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "If you want, I'll teach you how to grow your own." "Oh, I don't have time for that." And it's like, well, if you don't have time for it, then you don't have time for my craft, and
Yeah.
I don't really want to share it. Sorry.
Yeah, you're talking about, learning with your parents and all. My
Yep.
my grandmother, God rest her soul, she came from a family of farmers, and she always had a really nice garden in her yard. And I learned how to grow organically from her. I remember she always had a 55-gallon barrel under her downspout for the rainwater and would collect rainwater in that. And then had another one that was filled with rainwater that we had horses, and she would take the horse manure and put it in that rainwater and let it ferment in there and keep stirring it every day for like a week. And then she'd take jugs of that and pour it on her garden. And the tomatoes and cucumbers and everything just were killer, you know. And I remember as I got older and was getting high, I brought her some seeds and asked her to grow them for me, and she grew some nice little plants in the backyard for me. She thought it was kind of neat, so I kind of missed that. That was neat.
The weird thing I learned about collecting rainwater, I wanna touch on this and to see what your thoughts are. You know, obviously it's in everything, and some people are iffy about it or not. But did you know that if you collect rainwater off a standardized shingle roof, the shingles contain petroleum. So essentially you're putting petroleum into your water. And if you're using steel or metal roofs, they say you're getting trace metals. The best way to collect is to just use like a funnel out in the open in a field and collect it that way and let it go into the bucket. I've never had a problem, but have you ever heard of that before?
Well, I'm 63 years old. I drink water out of a garden hose. You think I'm worried about?
Right, exactly.
I'm
just saying, have you ever heard anybody?
I mean, we used to play on jungle gyms with like concrete under it, you know, stuff that you don't see anymore. We survived all that, so water off the shingles. I ain't worried about that, brother.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, these are things that I read along. It's so weird reading some things because I do, just like you said, I do my research. So every day I'm reading articles on everything you could imagine, everything. And that's my thing, is I can't get enough knowledge. I'm a sponge.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah, knowledge is a good thing. You're never too old to learn.
Definitely.
Take it from me. I'm learning every day.
Absolutely. So what light do you have from HLG, if you don't mind me asking?
I run a pair of 650Rs with UV bars on them, and then I have a Blackbird in between them.
Okay, I got the Blackbird in the 4x2. They discontinued that light, or the Blackwing. Sorry, I apologize. They discontinued the Blackwing, and it's a smaller version of that light. And I love that light, and I was so upset, but they came out with a newer one, so I guess it's supposed to be even better yet. I haven't ran HLG in a while here, but I'm definitely planning on it. But I do have a couple other lights lined up that we're going to be doing some testing on this fall that is a totally new brand to the United States. So you guys will have to stay tuned. Yeah, it's a German brand. So you can imagine, Germany does pretty high quality, on their cars and stuff. Obviously it's luxury, but they put a lot of thought into things. So sometimes they over-engineer, I will be honest, but it is quite an impressive light fixture, and we're going to put it to the test and see what it does. So it'll be a good thing to do. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing yours in flower. I'm going to share them with the community as soon as you get some pictures up and you get that far. But is there anything else we should know about you before we let you go for the night?
Just follow me on social media to keep up with what's going on in my world. Like I said, I'm on Grow Diaries, the Canna Prophet. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. Go to the Canna Prophet on all of them. You'll find me. And I appreciate the follows. I always follow back. And remember, grow what you love and love what you grow.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on the Organically Blunt Show. You're always welcome back. If you got something going on you want to share with the community, you always have an outlet and a platform here with us. And as we say, as always, if you can't stay lit, at least stay organically blunt. Have a great evening, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
As we close this chapter of Organically Blunt, immense gratitude to our exceptional partners who fuel our growth journey.
Seedsman Genetics, the seasoned seed bank with over 2 decades of experience. Grow Bag, your trusted storage solution to protect terps. Gorilla Grow Tent, crafting spaces for cultivating dreams. Kind LEDs, illuminating your green haven. Country Roots Soil and Amendments, nurturing roots for success. Atlas Seeds, a source of pure genetic treasures. Green Wolf Genetics, creators of botanic magic. Smoke and Stork Genetics, where passion meets potency. Humboldt Seed Company, committed to cultivating excellence. Extreme Gardening, elevating your gardening game. Rain Science Grow Bags, redefining plants' homes. 420 Fast Buds, pioneers of fast and furious growth. Captain Redbeard Seeds, sailing the seas of genetic innovation. Aero Mixer, the rheumatic heartbeat of your grow. Petra Tools, your trusted garden companions. SoFem Genetics, sowing seeds of FEMS and Build-A-Soil, building the foundation of your organic oasis. Lost Close Plant Therapy, healing and enhancing plant vitality. Unlock these exclusive deals with coupon code Organically Blunt at checkout. Until our next episode, stay connected and keep growing, and as always, stay organically blunt.